In this video, we're going to be comparing the Kindle to the Kobo. And right off the bat, I want to make your life either easier or a little harder by saying that at the end of the day, there's not a ton of difference between these two devices. If you want to read ebooks, either of these are going to be a great way to do that. But there are some differences and some subtleties, some things that I like about one versus the other, and those are the things that I want to share with you in this video. I also do want to say right off the top that we're going to be making kind of a general comparison in this video. There are several different versions of the Kindle that do several different things and come in different shapes and sizes and capabilities, and same is true with the Kobo. So rather than try to compare specifics to specifics, we'll just compare general things about Kindle to general things about Kobo. If you want device specifics, check out other videos that I have specifically about Kindle that I think will be helpful. And so we'll start off with the Kindle. I'm going to share things I like about each device rather than the traditional pros and cons, because oftentimes a pro for one device is going to be by necessity a con for the other. So it just seems a little redundant. So I'm just going to tell you the things I like about each device. But before we do that, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, which is Shortform. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the sheer number of must-read books and the utter lack of time that we all have to actually read them, Shortform might be the perfect fit for you. Shortform has the world's best guides to nonfiction and even some fiction books, and these are books that you actually want to read. Their guides are super detailed, they cover all the book's key ideas, they have interactive exercises, and they even add value to the books by offering smart insights and analysis. They cover every genre, and by every genre, I mean every genre, and they have books that you actually care to read. Some of my favorites so far have been the books in the history section, the biography and memoirs, and even the productivity books that they have been super helpful. I have been dying to read Atomic Habits by James Clear since it came out, and I just haven't gotten around to it for whatever reason, but I recently read Shortform's guide and feel like I'm absolutely ready to change my life now. The guide detailed the different types of habits that exist, how habits form, how to decrease the difficulty of implementing new habits, and how to make new habits fulfilling. I found the guide to be super interesting and informative, and best of all, the key points of the book I think were crystal clear. So if you want to get started with Shortform, click the link in the description or go to shortform.com/Dylan. You'll get a free trial and 20% off when you sign up. Again, link in the description below or shortform.com/Dylan. Thank you so much to Shortform for sponsoring today's video. So starting off, what I really like most about Kindle in no particular order is going to be, number one, Kindle Unlimited. I think it's a super neat service that gives you access to so many books. I mean, more books than you could ever even begin to imagine reading in one lifetime. I think there's like millions and millions of books. You've got big name authors, you've got small name independent authors that nobody but you has ever heard about, and there's just something for everybody. It's a very robust catalog, and I love that it's always changing. They're always adding new books. They're adding big name books that are just coming out or kind of some backlog books. It's just a really neat feature that admittedly I don't take full advantage of, but I like having it. I like knowing that I could if I wanted to. And Kobo does offer something similar, but in my opinion, it is lacking compared to Kindle Unlimited. There's just not as many options. And then kind of similar to that with the Kindle, I love the integration. I love how if you are part of the Amazon ecosystem, it's just super easy to get up and running. You've got all your stuff in one place. I love that there's integration with Audible. So if you purchase an Audible book and you purchase also the ebook, you can keep up with one and the other. So they have something called Whisper Sync, where if you're listening to a book and so you listen through to chapter 5, but then you decide you want to read from that point on, you just pick up your Kindle and it should sync and you'll just be in chapter 5 in your Kindle and you pick up right where you left off. And then vice versa, if you get to chapter 10 and decide you want to go back and to listen to the book instead, it should pick up right where you left off in Audible. And I think that's just super convenient and makes your life just a little easier. So this one is a little bit debatable, I suppose, and relies on anecdotal type evidence, but I think the Kindle display is just a little bit better than the Kobo display. Now, I will say that the only Kobo devices I've used thus far have been the Kobo color options, so the black and white may not be the same. It might not be true for those models, but with the color version of the Kobo, the displays are just dimmer and then a little bit grayer, and harder to look at. My wife and I went on vacation here not too long ago, and we took both our Kobo and our Kindle on the trip, and we started off reading on the Kobo. And I have to say that after a few days of really heavy reading, we went on a cruise and did nothing but read, basically. I got kind of a headache, like a migraine, and I don't know if it was from eye strain or what. Now, I will say that I get headaches fairly often. I always have. It's just the joy of my life. But my wife, who never gets headaches, was getting headaches quite a bit also when she was reading only on her Kobo. So we decided to switch it up. We brought our Kindles, so we started reading on those. And no more headaches for either of us. And I realized that there's a lot of factors that may have contributed. Can I say for certain it was reading on the Kobo for prolonged periods of time that gave us both headaches? No. But is it most likely why? Probably. So I don't know. I've heard other people say the same. Reading on the Kobo for a long time gives them headaches due to eye strain. Again, that might just be the color version. I cannot speak for the black and white version of the Kobo, but it's something you need to be aware of. So the Kindle has, I think, a better, crisper display, but it's also got, I think, better build quality. Now, this is obviously going to depend on which device you're comparing. They are different from Kindle to Kindle and Kobo to Kobo, and certainly Kindle to Kobo and vice versa. So put a big asterisk next to this point, but generally speaking, overall, I think Kindle has a better build quality on their devices. This is the Kindle Basic. It is the cheapest Kindle you can currently buy, and it's the cheaperly made Kindle. It's like a hard plastic. I don't know if that's helpful and you can hear, but it's a hard plastic. And compared to even a higher level Kobo, so the Kobo Libra Color, for example, is made out of, I think, a cheaper feeling plastic than even the Kindle Basic. And again, I know that there are different versions of the Kobo, but generally speaking, I think the screen quality, the materials used to make the device are just a little bit better, a little more premium. And then kind of keeping with the hardware side of things, I do think generally speaking, the Kindle has a better battery life. Now on paper, they should be pretty much the same. And really, I mean, in reality, these things are going to last forever. Compared to any other electronic device that holds a charge, you're not going to have to worry about charging these things very much at all. But comparing the two, I've found that I have to charge my Kobo a lot more than I have to charge my Kindle, typically speaking. Lots of factors that go into that, obviously screen brightness, reading time, and all that. And I do also think that maybe the Kobo having a color screen contributes a little bit as well. That's just my uninformed hypothesis. But if you want a little bit longer battery life, I would go with the Kindle, though ultimately, what's the difference between charging once every 3 weeks and once every 3.5 weeks. Now, second to last with the Kindle, one thing that I ironically kind of like more on the Kindle is how you use Libby. So this is only going to apply if you live in the US. If you live somewhere else, then this is going to be irrelevant. But I like the way that with Libby right now and the way it's set up with Kindle, you have to go onto the Libby app, search for the book you want, borrow it on the app, send it to Kindle, download it on your Kindle, and then start reading. It's like a 4, 5, 6 step process that doesn't sound like it should be preferable, but I actually kind of like the way it works. We'll talk a minute about Libby integration or overdrive integration on the Kobo, but I kind of like that you have to go on your smartphone to look for books, not because you have to do it, but because it's just so much easier to do it. I would much prefer, if I'm doing a search, to search on my smartphone than on an e-reader. If you've ever tried to type on a keyboard on an e-reader, it is an extremely frustrating process. You've got to tap and things don't show up, and then they all show up at once, and you've got a backspace. It's just a headache and takes 5 times longer than it should. And there are some steps you've got to go through even on the Kobo directly that just kind of add up to a headache of an experience. So I kind of like the roundabout way that Libby is set up with Kindle. And then last but not least, the biggest thing that the Kindle has going for it is, generally speaking, price. So the cheapest model Kindle you can get right now is $99. That's going to be this one right here, the Kindle Basic, and that's not a bad deal at all. Whereas the cheapest current model Kobo that you can get is going to run about $130 or so dollars. It's going to depend on when you're looking, where you live, and so forth, but about $130. So it's a little bit more expensive for, I think, a slightly inferior product on the hardware side. But now moving on to the Kobo. What do I really like about Kobo compared to Kindle? Well, I really like the Kobo interface. At first, when I unboxed this thing and started using it, of course, going from only using Kindle, it felt kind of weird and a little bit clunky, and I really wasn't sure what I was doing and how to navigate the thing. But after just a little bit of time, I really grew to see the functionality and kind of the just common sense approach that the interface on Kobo has versus Kindle. And then another thing I really like about Kobo is it's a lot less pressury to buy books. So if you've ever fired up your Kindle, you know that every page is just full of, hey, we think you'll like this book. You should buy this book. This book's on sale right now. Maybe you want to buy it. And that's good. I mean, I like a good book recommendation as much as the next guy. But on the Kobo, there's like one page and they're like, hey, these books are kind of similar to other stuff you've read. Maybe you want to buy these, but if not, here's what you're looking for, you know? So it just like kind of feels like Kindle is the high pressure salesman, and then Kobo is just like, hey, maybe you want this, maybe you don't. Have a good time reading. A big thing, the most obvious thing, is color. If you want a device that displays color, I would go with the Kobo Color. As of now, between the two, it's the only one that has it. So if that's a big deal for you, you could probably stop watching the video now if this one has color. Kindle does not. Now, will Kindle eventually have a e-ink device with color? Yeah, I'm sure they will. When? I don't exactly know. Probably not all that long from now. But if you read things like manga or graphic novels or magazines, this device lets you see them how they were meant to be seen, whereas the Kindle does not. So I think it would be worth paying the little bit extra for this device if that's important to you. And then one thing that I'll just kind of mention in passing is that Kobo is a little more flexible. Like I said, with their home screen, they're a little more relaxed, a little less pressury. And that's kind of true with the device just in general. There's an application called Caliber. If you've not heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out and taking advantage of it, especially if you are a Kobo user. But Caliber allows you to kind of manage your ebook library, change formats of certain books, and send them off to different e-readers. And this device is going to let you have a little more flexibility with the file types that you can read on it. It'll let you upload different file types of ebooks, whereas the Kindle is pretty locked down. You can really only use they want you to buy their books and nobody else's books. So it's a lot more complicated with Kindle. The Kobo is going to allow you some flexibility. And then last but not least with the Kobo, and again, maybe most obviously, is this is not an Amazon product. And I know for some people it's very important. Look, I would be a hypocrite if I said that you shouldn't support Amazon. My wife runs a business. We're getting stuff from Amazon literally like 3 times a day. So, I feel bad about it, but it's just the reality of the world that we live in, I guess. But if you would rather not give Jeff Bezos your money, or at least not as much of your money, and you would rather support another company, granted, Kobo is not some mom and pop garage type company. They're pretty big themselves. But if you'd rather not support Amazon, Kobo's the way to do it, I think. But let me know in the comments below your favorite. Is it the Kindle or the Kobo? And tell me why. I'm relatively new to Kobo still. I'm sure there are some things that I could have mentioned that I didn't. So let me know in the comments below. Maybe your favorite thing about your Kobo, some things that I overlooked for either Kobo or Kindle. I always appreciate hearing from you guys. But that is it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.